Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of The Letter running on Series X. Even as the last of the woman's painful cries fade into the night. October 31st, Monday. The dreary downpour starts off the Monday. Although it doesn't last for more than an hour, the dark clouds lift just after the sun peeks over the horizon. Brief as it is, the rain has significantly dampened the park's usual cheery vibe. Mornings like this often mark the start of another bad week. An arrest gone wrong, another investigation leading to a dead end, and some truly fucked up shit being called in. Like that one time I was dispatched to a scene where a guy gouged his own eyeball out and almost ate it. Was a few chews away from swallowing it, in fact. Lost my dinner that day.
Fun times.
Of course, I doubt anything can top getting cursed by a damn chain letter of all things. This is the sort of stupid thing people pass along as a prank through emails and text messages, for fuck's sake. A ghost chasing after you just puts the icing on the cake. So far, all we've done is run, snoop about, read stuff, and run again. It frustrates me to no end how we're still no closer to an answer. Even my car reflects the state of my mind is in. Photocopies of documents litter every available surface, scattered all over the place, spilling from the passenger side and into the back seat, making an entire mess of what little space there is. Not that I'm any better. My last shower was 24 hours ago and I haven't slept at all, and the last meal was that chocolate porridge thing Isabella offered. The way I am now, I'll definitely get a scolding. Rebecca will definitely give me an earful and tell me to take care of myself better, say that I'm killing myself on the job. I can already hear Isabella complaining how dark the bags under my eyes are getting, and about how I reek and how I need to shower pronto.
I can rest easy when this is all over.
It's not that I can't feel the pang of hunger. With that woman chasing after you, it's difficult not to feel anything other than horror. The rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins in my desperation to survive. In fact, I can still sense the ghost of her touch from last night. Her bony digits wound tightly around my ankle, and that horrid smile she has on her as she pulls me closer. The memory's enough to send a shiver up my spine and make me antsy. Perhaps the only thing comforting about this is the sight of my gun nearby. From my dashboard, sunlight glints off Ophelia's surface. Normally, I keep it hidden in a compartment. Luxembourg police regulations only allows authorized personnel to carry firearms, and even those are limited. I do have that authorization, but I never really saw the need for its use, with the standard issue taser are more than good enough to incapacitate anyone. If not, I can always throw them on their back. Those judo lessons Dad forced me to get as a kid has its uses too. On a ghost, though, all of those will probably yield the same result. They're all useless. I might as well use a stick. However, it's the feeling of ease I'm after, or what little of it I can gather from it. The awareness that I, at least, have something to protect myself with in case things go wrong. But I can still protect the people who are still depending on me despite the missteps I've taken. Doesn't take the edge off, though. The feeling that your whole body has been strained far beyond its capacity. Frankly, I'm already running out of steam. The only thing pushing me right now is knowing someone is still depending on me. A stretch is still in order, though. I've been sitting here since last night. Soon I step out from my car, closing it behind me with a thud as I take in my surroundings. The rain did wonders. The morning air feels crisper and cooler than it has ever been in days. For once, the weather seems to be taking a turn for the normal. Luxembourg's normal in the distance. Beyond the buildings lining the horizon, dark clouds are blowing in.
A storm might be due this evening, give or take.
A shame for the people looking forward to Halloween night. I'm just not sure whether this is something I can look forward to as well. Still, I bask in the change it brings. Inhale, exhale, breathing in, taking in the peace as if it'll be my last. But, as with all the good things, the quiet shortly comes to an end. Not necessarily to a bad end. The chatter reaches my ears first, halting my movements. Sure enough, when I glance up, I find them. Zach, Rebecca, and Isabella, just as they've entered the park grounds, bags of convenience store food in hand. After last night's flight from Salem, we've elected to stay the night here, unsure if our own homes will still be safe. Normally, we'd all be adverse to the idea of spending the night outside like this, but panic and distress has tainted that decision. It's not like any of us have gotten an ounce of sleep anyway. On the off chance one of us did, it only lasted for about a second, or it's a fitful one. But looking at them right now, from afar, it's easy to mistake them for just a group of friends on a day out. Isabella's gesturing wildly with her arms as she talks. Something funny or amusing, probably, because it's soon followed by Zach's booming laughter and Rebecca's giggles. Their voices fill the atmosphere with light air, temporarily easing off the disheartening mood. It's easy to pretend we're not knee-deep in a life-and-death situation the way they're acting now. If anything, it's only their appearance that betrays that mask. Slightly disheveled, bags under their eyes, an exhausted curve in their shoulders, and dragging footsteps. But the closer they get, the more obvious these signs are to the naked eye. Zach tosses an energy drink my way the moment the distance allows it. Isabella hands me the other bag she's holding, before seating herself on the edge of the fountain. The scent of warm food immediately wafts from the bag when I open it, carried further by a passing breeze. Whatever sweet sauce they drizzled over this pork wannabe, it smells heavenly. Hell, even the sorry-looking vegetables seem appetizing. Despite myself, without even checking exactly what this is, hunger swiftly takes over every rational thought. I dig in without waiting for them to start. The rest of them appear to be of the same mind too. Soon enough, they all start with theirs. No casual talk while we fill our empty stomachs. Exhausted as we all are, food is something we can't forego. Starvation dulls the thinking, weakens the body. If we are to survive this, we're going to have to take care of ourselves first. In a matter of minutes, we're done and dumping the empty cartons on a nearby waste bin. Along with it is the shift in the mood. Back to dismal, back to the problem at hand. The comfortable atmosphere from minutes ago was nice while it lasted. Admittedly, I missed these kind of moments between us. We never had the chance. I was busy on some project or work. The things we've taken for granted, now we're realizing how valuable they are. The world has an awful sense of humor. While the ones we've just had is short-lived, it's another thing I want to look forward to if we ever free ourselves from this damn curse. I'd like to believe there's a way. For now, we'll have to focus back on the present. This. Dead people. The letter. The curse. It's not simple to bring these up, but necessary.
What now? Where do we go from here?
It's not a question directed at anyone in particular, but they all look to me as if my face has all the answers in the world. I used to think so, back when I was at the top of my game, and I'm still sure of everything. Now there's just uncertainty settling whatever decision I come up with. At some point, logic has simply stopped working here, and we started grasping at straws. Along with exhaustion, fatigue, and stress, we have enough kindling to get a fire burning. But not so pleasant kind of fire.
Well, first, we can't just stay here. That much is obvious.
But we can't just keep running like this either, Becca. Sooner or later, she'll...
As if we have a choice. We can't even go back to our own homes because that thing might get us. No, we're safe. But dying is the last thing I want to do right now, Isabella. Not to a stupid chain letter you were too gullible to pick up, bring with you, and show to everyone.
I didn't do it on purpose. Becca, had I known, I wouldn't have...
Hey, you two. None of us want to die to this. Just calm down. We ain't getting anywhere shouting at each other.
Whose side are you on, Zachary?
No one's. But we can't just say it's her fault. She did warn us not to open it, and both you and Ashton...
That doesn't exempt her from any blame. She's still largely responsible for it.
And you're not?
I didn't say that! Do you really think I don't blame myself for this as well?
I tried to warn all of you. None of you listened. Now you're blaming me for something I kept telling you guys since day one? You're just as responsible for this as I am.
So now you're throwing it back at us? We wouldn't even be having this problem if you're...
Well, you two cut it out! This ain't the place for I don't know, petty squabbles!
If you don't want to get caught in it, then stay out of this, Zachary.
Oh no, Zach. Don't stop her. Let her say it. I'm sure she has plenty more to say. If I didn't know any better, she's already.
Already what? You want me to say it? Out loud? That I find you in this whole thing?
All right, that's enough! Everyone, shut up!
They all falter to silence at my words, and an awkward, stifling mood descends between us. I do not mean to shout, to snap at them, to add to that kindling. Not in a moment when any time, anywhere, she might get to one of us. We're all in the same boat, yet here we are, playing the blame game. Little by little we're falling apart, caving in to the pressure, to the bleak situation we're trapped in. Did that ghost mean for this to happen? To divide each of us so she can pick us off one right after the other? Who knows? Anything's possible now if her kind can exist. With the fire burning between us rising as high as it does now, I'm afraid, deathly afraid, that the possibility might come sooner than I can figure all of this out. Fuck, I still can't think straight. I can't even believe the next words coming out of my mouth. That out of everyone, I have to be the one telling them, that out of everyone, I have to be the one saying these to them. This is more their forte than mine. Keeping the peace, placating everyone, while I unintentionally aggravate people with badly chosen words. Funny how fast the tables have been turned after just one unfortunate incident. How am I even supposed to cope?
If we all want to get out of this mess in one piece, we're gonna have to cool our heads first.
Before my own tempers flare, I walk away and slide back into my car. If the door slams with more force than needed, I'd like to blame it on the pent-up anger boiling up in me. Not even sure what or who I'm angry at. The ghost? At them? Or maybe at myself for being this useless. Because despite none of them saying it, I know, goddammit. You're still counting on me. In spite of my failures, or every harsh word I've uttered, or how unbearable I can be as a friend. It's there when the tension after the argument finally breaks, and one by one they follow me and get in the car. It is concerned glances they shoot my way when I start the engine without a word and drive off. It's in their silence, a heavy gift, their unwavering trust. Yet, it's one I'm more than willing to carry, even through my own exhaustion, if only to keep them safe. In this city of 68,000 strangers, they're the only ones I have left. Though in all seriousness, a good rest is still our best bet for now. Thinking with an exhausted brain is almost as good as running around in circles. We might as well just throw ourselves at that ghost and be done with this. The local Irish pub may not be the best place to hang around when no one has slept a wink or you're stressed. More often than not, it's loud. Sometimes the music played by drunkards grates on the ears and the whole place smells like piss on a bad day. All in all, it's the very definition of the last place I'd hang around after a wakeful night. But it's safe, and plus we didn't want to try any more locations. Or as safe as that can be with G security watching the place, makes it easy to find help in case you find yourself in a tight spot. The place being owned by a person I've implicitly placed my trust on provides some semblance of comfort too. Gregor, bartender G, or just G to his regular patrons, might be rough around the edges. Sometimes a bit too gruff for a man serving drinks behind the counter, but he belongs to the good folks of the city. If there's anyone in this place I can rely on to look after people important to me, it's probably him. He means well, surprisingly, despite his surly demeanor. Cares, to some extent, for people he likely only sees once or twice a week or on a bad day. Not the best job in the world, in my opinion, but what exactly is, isn't it? In wine, there is truth. Alcohol, in this case. It loosens the tongue, forces one to get his or her guard down. Whatever inhibitions anyone has, it all flies straight out the window after a few glasses. It has made him observant, too. Always one or two things to say about someone or something. Most of the time it's me, opinionated ass. But God knows how many times I've asked for his help when I'm met with a dead end in a case or I'm in trouble. This time's no different. As expected, the moment we show up, he's kind enough to offer us a room at the back of his shop. A single look on my face, I don't even need to say anything, and the next thing we know, he's leading us in. No questions asked. Maybe it's also for this reason why I find myself drifting towards his station hours later, after having gotten that much needed shut-eye. Newly washed drinking glasses and tumblers line the counter surface when I enter the room. Behind the bar, G's busy wiping each of them clean, likely preparing it for tonight's use. Briefly, he glances up at me, once I clean one of the empty stools and grab a rocks glass sitting close to my elbow. Turning it absentmindedly in my palm, just to keep my hands occupied while my brain's busy, still trying to make sense of everything. Even at a dead hour, with only a few patrons milling about, the place still smells strongly of liquor. Honestly, I've never grown fond of it. Regardless of how many times I've made a trip or sat here on the same spot just talking with the old man. I've never been fond of drinking in the first place. Yet oddly, it's the nasty odor of a brewery that helps me clear the mind this time, along with the lack of establishment's usual hubbub and the usual clinking of glasses. Even more bizarre is that, through my lack of words, G doesn't say anything, although it's clear from the way his mouth has curved up in a tight frown that he has questions, a bucket load of. He wisely keeps it shut. Instead, he simply focuses back on his work. Rinse, wipe, stash away, repeat, going through the motions with such familiarity it's almost a trance. Watching his precise movements quietly like this, with these thoughts swimming inside my head, it's easy to lose track of everything around me. One solid lead on this, one possible way to sort this out, but will it work? Especially if my assumption's correct and that the reason Zach was there yesterday morning was because of the curse. Something must have happened there for him to see the need to visit the place that morning. What if the couple has fallen victim to the curse too? It doesn't fall outside the realm of possibility. I've been so biased, not even thinking that they might be in danger as well. But during the open house with Isabella, they might have seen the letter and... Fuck.
Stupid. Some fucking detective I am.
That's likely the moment when Cooper saw it. If the logic holds, I need to hurry there right away. And if there are answers anywhere, it should be there. It should be there, where all this fucking mess started. It's not only my life on the line here, there are others. What happened to us, I won't wish on anyone else, no matter how much I loathe them, or how complicated all of this has suddenly become. The letter, the woman, the mansion. And now there are voices lacing venom inside every crevice in my head. Murmurs that jeer, scoff, and deride whenever an opportunity presents itself.
It's because you did this.
It's all your fault. Why won't you believe me?
A reminder of what I failed to do and of who I failed. At some point, they all began to blur together, twinning and coiling, every horrid image and memory of her wreaking the forefront of my mind, or seeking the forefront of my mind. No matter how much I refuse to remember the fear I felt then, to push it back as far as I can, the visions come to me like a deluge. And before I know it, before I can drown, another voice pulls me out of it.
You doing good there, boy?
His hand is on my shoulders, gripping it tightly and giving me a light shake. There's relief in his face when I finally look up at him, although his frown appears more distinct than the concern in his eyes. It's deeper now, marred with worry and agitation. He does let go when I offer him a small nod, but the furrow between his eyebrows never leaves his face. He always has a knack for reading people, after all, even someone who can be as closed off or distant like me. In all the time I spent in the forest, there's only one other person who's as keen as this old guy, the chief. Funny, and weird to some degree, and also funny that they're the same voice actor. I pointed it out to him so many times before how much they look alike, only for the observation to be brushed off with a vehement tone. What are they, brothers or something? I've never brought it up again after the third time, out of respect for the guy. Whatever it is, it's clear it's something he doesn't want to talk about. Why push though, right? However, during times like this, it's impossible for the thought not to come up. He even has the glare down pat. Under his wordless scrutiny, I feel like a damn rookie again.
You're looking a bit green. Sure you got plenty of rest back there? You were only out for an hour or two. Wouldn't hurt to try and get some sleep. I'll keep an eye out.
No need. Don't worry about me. I won't be able to get some sleep anyway.
Not with her face still a clear picture in my head, no.
I heard that from you before. Not buying it. What's the story this time? This as bad as that case with the guy who ate his own eyeball?
I wish it were. Jesus, stop reminding me. I hated that case. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you get a kick out of telling people about it.
It's useful, you know, for blokes who don't know their limits. Sends them right out the door after I start with a description. Or was it the part when the poor schmuck gouged his eyes out? Nasty, awful, icky stuff, and it gets the job done. Like I said, useful. Don't even need to call security these days if I want to kick someone out. Anyway, pretty sure that pales in comparison to whatever this is now. I haven't seen you this stressed out since they closed that case. The one from 10 years ago with your professor friend.
Abigail and her team weren't able to solve that one, G. No one has been able to. It just went cold.
Same difference. But what do I know, eh? I just serve drinks, listen to people's problems and their whining, then make sure they get home safe afterwards. Thing is, I'm also not blind, kiddo. And you can bet your ass I can tell when a person's about to fall apart.
What? Is this some form of therapy from you? Are you going to offer me free drinks now?
Really, I can use some of that right now. Something to numb the senses. But when has that helped anyone?
In your dreams, kid. Last time someone gave you the hard stuff, your photographer friend had to haul you out of this place almost half naked.
Hey, I can handle my liquor when I put my mind to it.
Not from what I've seen, nope. Besides, you usually avoid drinking. Either way, it's out of the equation. And when booze no longer counts, we just talk. So, talk. It's not like anyone within earshot will care. That chap over there only wants his cricket matches.
I doubt you believe it, G.
I've heard worse stuff. Try me.
You know that mansion down at Anslem?
Yeah, who doesn't? You live in this town long enough, it's impossible not to hear a thing or two about it. Bloody locals.
Well, my friend found a primitive version of a chain letter in there. Now that we've seen it, we're cursed.
A beat passes. For a long moment, G stands there, unmoving. His hand stops short of placing the glass he's been wiping prior back to a rack on his left. all the while he stares at me with eyes that are nothing short of scrutinizing. He probably assumes I'm joking. Who wouldn't? Not a week ago, I've been put in the same position. Even now, in spite of the things I've seen and heard, it simply won't sink in. Or maybe this is just desperation creeping in. The idea I may not be able to find a way out of this. Whatever the case, for people who haven't experienced what I'm going through, this will merely sound like an awful Halloween prank.
It's not a prank.
This must have been what Isabella felt the whole time we made fun of her that day.
This isn't a prank! I saw something!
Now it's too late. We're stuck in a never-ending nightmare where the only way out might be death. And, like I've expected, G's reaction to it? An amused laughter. It booms throughout the whole pub after a long bout of silence, like I've just told him a particularly funny joke.
Okay. Good one, kid. You don't want to spill. No one's forcing you. Seriously, though. Good one.
Although I want to be angry with him, I can't find it in myself. Can't even muster the energy for a scowl or a glare. Nothing but a taste of my own medicine to temper the annoyance bubbling up in me, I suppose. In the end, echoing her words is the best I can do.
It's not a joke.
Yeah, all right, good luck with that. You're on your own. Here I thought you didn't have an ounce of humor in that body. Guess I'm wrong.
He shakes his head, lets out another chuckle before returning to his task. By now, almost half of the glasses have been put away. The only ones remaining are the smaller kind used for shots and stemmed ones for cocktails. Despite being busy with his task, his amusement does not entirely disappear from his face. He keeps talking as if I'm simply another customer he entertains with his stories. But we both know it's more than that, if the wistful expression on him says anything.
Man, can't believe you're the same rookie who walked in here almost a decade ago. Too smart for his own good, that boy. Has always been 2 steps ahead of things. Now he's here, sulking.
I must have screwed up somewhere then.
I must have screwed up a lot. For things to suddenly shift like this, for me to become a mere shadow of the person I used to be.
No, I don't think so. This one, screwed up? Not by a mile. It's too early to say. You've still got several years ahead of you, Holmes. Take it easy. But some things change, eh? It has been years, and you were a kid back then. You know, the sort that's a bit unsure, making all the horrible decisions in life he'd eventually be embarrassed to talk about.
You never stop calling me kid, though.
Well, you still are. It's just that this time, you're sure of who that badge and gun is for. What was it you police types usually say? To protect and serve, yeah?
They actually don't say that anymore, because the job of the police, at least in New York City, is actually not to protect and serve. It's an old phrase that no longer applies. That's actually not their job. A significant pause follows at its heels. For the both of us, as he allows its meaning to sink in and spur something in me, stirring a feeling both heavy and forceful, but not completely unwelcome. Familiar. There, before I can even clarify what he's trying to imply or gather my thoughts on the matter, G turns away to begin his work on the silverwares. He'll need those too once more of his patrons come in for lunch. Slow and easy. A sharp contrast with the strange air we've been wading through these past weeks. A fleeting moment, but one I allow myself to relish, if only because of its absence lately. The way things are now, this is almost a gift. So, when it all ends with a loud shuffling of foot and the adjacent hallway, a sigh is all that leaves me. There's no need for me to look up to know who it is. Zach's treads alone are telling. There's always a weighted set to them, steps that are taken with a lazy cadence. Like he's always trying to make himself smaller, less conspicuous than he actually is. In a place he's unfamiliar with, he also tends to linger, stand awkwardly at the sides as if he's all too afraid to break something. That, or he's waiting for a permission of some kind. Either way, he's never been the kind to barrel head first into things or forego courtesy, despite appearances. Much like how Rebecca's mother Henning belies her fiery temperament, or Isabella's rare display of maturity appears at odds with her youth. There has been a lot of those in my life, it seems, more so from the people I've grown closer to over the years. Walking contradictions we all are. It's a wonder how we ended up as friends in the first place. But maybe that's also exactly why. To some extent, there's still an understanding in there, in knowing. No matter how long you've been together, or how familiar you are with a person's habits, or how many lifetimes there might be for all of you, one can never fully know a person. Sometimes it works because they merely choose to stay. Sometimes it's as simple as extending a hand first for an apology, regardless of every hurtful word said.
Hey. Hey, Ash?
This time I glance at him, briefly, gauging the mood. Not because reconciliation's an issue for me. Between us, it never will be. But somehow this is another thing I'm all too afraid to see crumble in front of me. On the one wrong word, if this is going to end in another argument, we might as well stop as early as now. There's another long pause for him, during which he can't seem to figure out what to do with his hand. In the end, he chooses to stuff both into his pockets and trains his eyes at the now empty space behind the counter. Without our notice, G has slipped back to the kitchen, leaving only the two of us and everything awkward in the world at the moment. Still, Zach treasures on, a hopeful tone slipping into his voice, because it's the only thing he knows how to do.
Did you, get any sleep?
It's a start at least. A stiff one, but a start. The least I can offer in return is that rare honesty.
For a few hours, yeah.
Curt, brusque, not an ounce of friendliness in it. In spite of it, Zach takes it as a sign. Relief washes over him as his shoulders relax and he releases a tense breath. Soon he's closing the distance he has put between us and flops onto the chair to my right.
I think the better question is if the dreams are pleasant. And for the record, no.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get those a lot.
He shifts in his seat, coughs, drums his fingers on the counter for a short while, then falls silent. That's it. No apologies. Somehow, that short exchange is all we need. The air changes again, much like everything we've known lately. Maybe not for the better. Not yet. However, it's less suffocating with less hostility and resentment. The kind where it's easy to pretend, easy to forget. Not that it's a thing that'll happen anytime soon, but one can dream. In a situation where death might come knocking at any time, it's these little hope we cling to. It's these little things we wish will happen again. I'm not an optimistic person by nature. Hopeful maybe, but never optimistic. Though I want to believe there's a way we'll live through this nightmare. It's funny how it took all of this to spur these kinds of thoughts in me. I can't even remember the last time something like this has occurred to me. For some reason, after seeing one harrowing thing after another, I've simply forgotten.
Why are you suddenly smiling like that?
Huh? Oh, no, I was just thinking about something.
Well, it better be something that'll get us out of this mess.
What makes you think I know how to fix this? Until 2 days ago, I didn't even believe a word you guys have been telling me. Zach, I function better when I'm dealing with homicide cases. Hell, feel free to throw in the usual robbery and missing persons case into the mix. I don't care. Give me a few days and I'll give you a lead. This isn't how I operate. This isn't what I'm good at. For all you know, I might even end up getting us killed. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, the fact that you're frustrated but still trying already means something, Ash. Besides, you don't make that face unless you already have an idea. It can't be any worse than this. Maybe. What's on your mind, Ash?
There really is something about Z-Man. Between Rebecca and him, I tend to share with him things I won't normally say to the other. Unlike her, who pushes, sometimes with the same tenacity as her moods, Zach has this strange tenacity to ease people into telling him what he wants to know. Oftentimes, the question feels so subtle, it catches me off guard, with less force and more forbearance. After all, out of everyone, he's the most grounded. Really, he's like the older brother I never had, the kind you can depend on when things go sour. The kind you tell things to simply because he'll listen, without forcing his own opinions on you.
We still have one more lead we haven't checked. I'm gonna look into it tonight.
It doesn't take him long to put two and two together, and his calm expression abruptly dissolves to worry the second he realizes what I meant. We've already examined the letter, read through the piles of documents. There's really only one thing we haven't given a once-over. The mansion. Of course, Zach may not be the kind to push, but that doesn't mean he agrees with everything that comes out of my mouth. It's his way of keeping me steady and on my feet throughout the years.
Hold on, didn't you tell me not to go in there? Whatever happened to stay away from Luke Wright?
You're an unarmed civilian, Zach.
And so?
So, I want you to stay here and keep yourself safe. I probably won't take too long, but I don't know what might happen. I'm not even sure if I'll find something in there. G will keep an eye on you guys. If you need anything, if that woman shows up, just holler. He'll help out, no questions asked. You don't even need to explain anything.
He's not willing to concede, not from the manner he grips his knees or the rigid set to his jaw.
I'm going with you. You can't go in there alone, Ash. I heard something. The morning I was there, I heard someone scream, and then there was a woman crying, and I don't know what's going on inside that mansion, but I am telling you, you shouldn't face whatever's inside alone.
Before I can stop myself, a heavy breath escapes my mouth. It's one of those times, again, where Zach means well, but he's completely missing the point I'm trying to make. When things take a turn for this, when he gets in a mood like this, he's almost as headstrong as Isabella. How and where do I even start? I feel better if I don't have to worry about you. There are only two ways this will end. I agree with him and take him with me, or I agree with him and drop the idea altogether. Neither appeals more than the other, especially when we're all desperate for answers and a way out. If all it'll take is a little more honesty to make him drop this harebrained idea, so be it.
Look, man. Bro. Z-Man. Zach. Zachary, listen. I know you only want to help.
Like hell! This ain't just about helping, Ashton! You're throwing yourself in the thick of it, on your own! Was your fall last night really that bad? Did you hit your head hard? I honestly can't tell if you've gone stupid or just plain suicidal.
My head's okay, Zach. But it won't stay that way if we don't do anything about this. Someone has to.
Seriously, this is already a desperate move. The longer we dally, the faster we're losing our options. Do we even have one? Looking back at it, this whole business with the ghost seems perfectly set up to drive us into a corner. Either until we lose our mind or she gets us. It's starting to feel as if there isn't an escape. We've already become her playthings the second Isabella found that letter. That our lives are in her hands ticks me off big time, but the idea of watching the people I care about die helplessly? More so. They're much safer here than with me. It's a selfish thought, I know, born out of fear. So, in case things go awry, the very last thing I want to happen is for Zach to take the fall with me. I've already made enough mistakes.
And that means it's just you.
Just me.
Suddenly he clams up. Although his actions... Ugh. Restless shift in his shoulders, his mouth pressing close into a tight line, and how he starts off again in a quiet note. It all gives away his real thoughts, long before the two words have even made it out of his mouth.
I'm sure you already know about this. Maybe this is you trying to make amends, or whatever. I don't know. You're making your own decisions here. But if something happens to you, it'll be just that. You'll just be another dead body out there. Please, don't do something like this.
Don't worry. I'm not stupid enough to get myself killed. I just want things to go back to normal, Zach.
Another dead air follows at the heels of that one admission. The meaning of my words, too heavy, too striking, and it stuns us into another lull. Optimism aside, we're both aware that's impossible. We're going to have to deal with the trauma right after. There will be images, the voices whispering inside our heads, the foreboding feeling, the stench of blood, gore, and death trailing after us. We may survive this, but those things, they will remain within us for a long time. One does not survive something like this without it leaving something in you. Just the mere thought of what might come right after makes me dread it. What this has changed in all of us. But I suppose that outcome is more acceptable, the lesser of two evils.
3 hours.
My head snaps up and I turn to him, puzzled. He's staring at his hands with a thoughtful expression, brows furrowed in a deep concentration, like he's trying to choose the right words to convey what he's about to say.
3 hours? For what?
That's more than enough time to go there, to check things, like you said, and travel back here. If you don't show up here beyond that, I'm going after you.
From his tone, it sounds almost like a warning. I'm sure it's not his intention. But hearing something like that from a person like Zach, I can't help but chuckle and throw a jibe despite how dire things are. Just like old times.
Make that 4.
What? You said you're just gonna check things. Why would you even need that long?
Speed limit? I'm a ranked law enforcement officer, Zach. I'm supposed to set an example.
want to punch you right now.
Of course, Zach never carries it out. In light moments like this, it's just how he is, how we are. Unfortunately, G chooses the next moment to show up. He slams the flat of his palm on the counter, shooting us both a stern look. Although his tone is nothing short of jovial, the disapproval is clear in it. He obviously misunderstands the situation.
Boys, drummer's nice and all. I used to watch these bloody god-awful afternoon serials with one of my brothers many, many years ago. But listen, I am not having one in my pub, all right? You two want to fight? Go out.
A pregnant pause. Then, without any preamble, Zach and I are both snickering, and G's glower melts into confusion. When we both show no sign of stopping, he simply shakes his head and turns away. I'd like to think it's better this way. Better that we part on light terms, so Zach won't have to see every little insecurity, every little doubt in me right now. He's seen enough. The last thing I want him to glimpse is another display of weakness. Not when he still stares at me with the same unerring confidence in his eyes. When our mirth dies down, before anything can be said further, before I can change my mind, I step away from them. Giving Zach's shoulder a quick few pats, mumbling a lame excuse about taking another short nap under my breath, altogether bearing the stray thought that flashes fleeting me in my head. Zach has seen me at my lowest plenty of times. Why does all of it matter now? The sun hangs lower when I stumble back into consciousness and drag myself downstairs. Around this time, the patrons usually start to trickle into the main lounge until it reaches a peak around midnight. Today, however, it remains thin. But considering what day it isn't too worrisome for the kind of business G runs. He has always complained about the lack of decent crowd on a weak start, although he doesn't really begrudge his customers for it. No one wants to start the week with a bad case of a hangover, after all, even him. Which makes the concerned look he gives me come off a bit too odd. With the kind of danger we're in, this swiftly puts me on edge, even before sleep completely fades from my mind.
Something wrong, G?
G hums, but there's an undertone of annoyance in it despite his casual and open movements. And only after he finishes wiping a tumbler and carefully settles it face down on the table does he give me an answer. The way he stares back at me honestly makes me squirm. It feels like I'm being stared down by my primary school teacher for sleeping in class again.
Nothing much. Monday's still a slow day for this place. But you might want to check on your friends, kid. Looks like one of them woke up on the wrong side of the bed while you were out.
Another question forms in my head, along with a small confused frown. Though before a single syllable slips past my mouth, Rebecca's irate voice rings out from some part of the main lounge. From the sound of it, it appears woke up on the wrong side of the bed is a complete understatement.
Alone? You know we can't just go in there.
But we don't have any other choice, Becca! There's really no other way. We have to go there. If you'll just...
Isabella, no.
That doesn't sound too comforting. Once Rebecca assumes that kind of tone in an argument with Isabella, it usually ends with one of them walking out or both giving the other the silent treatment. It lasts for about a week at most if it's really bad, which really isn't what we need right now. I've hoped that the bad blood from this morning will simply blow over after all of us has gotten a decent rest. I should have expected things won't be the same with them as it is with Zach and I. Turns out sleep isn't just what some of us need. Even G appears to understand it. In spite of his efforts to look as unconcerned as possible, there's a tense set on his shoulders. A nervous edge lingers in his eyes, as it occasionally flickers over to where Rebecca and Isabella's voices are coming from. He doesn't want to deal with this, especially at the start of another busy week. Neither do I. Things have worked out well between them before without Zach or I meddling. But the imploring gaze G directs at me leaves me with no other choice. It almost feels like he's guilting me into doing something about it. I hate that it's working.
You know how I run this pub, kid. No fist fights, no cat fights, only good booze, bad puns, and off-key singing. Go fix it before it blows up in your faces. I'd hate to throw two girls out of this place over a petty argument.
It's probably not as petty if Rebecca is already shouting like that, but I give him a nod nonetheless.
Sorry about this, G.
He hums something under his breath for an answer and waves me off, turning away and returning to his work without another word. Even with the lack of a sizable crowd, he likes to keep busy. We're the same in that regard. Can't remain still, always has to stay moving, doing something, thinking, whatever keeps the brain at work. I'll leave him to it shortly after. Rebecca's voice rings out once again, followed by Isabella's. But part of me wants to thank him for all the trouble he has taken for people he barely even know. Once this is over, I should probably find some way. In the meantime, I have this immediate problem to fix. Gotta get to this before it turns into a shitstorm both of them will regret. And I know both of them will. For all of Isabella's complaints about Rebecca's bossy attitude, or how annoying Rebecca sometimes finds the other's childlike demeanor, it's a friendship they both cherish in their own way. Rebecca's already on her feet when I spot them in an almost deserted area of the pub. I'm willing to bet my entire life savings that people are staying away only because of the brewing storm. Rebecca can have quite the mood when she's crossed. I can't speak for Isabella. I rarely ever see her seething, but from what I've heard, it can be very unpleasant. The way she's glaring up at the redhead from her seat, regardless of how much the other woman towers over her right now, already says everything. Empty plates have been left neatly piled onto one corner of the table they occupy, a conversation that turned sour sometime after they ate lunch then. Good thing they're already done and nothing's left to be spilled. Because in the next moment, before I can approach and intervene, Rebecca slams her palm on the table. It sends the sofa clanking sharply against the surface. Isabella flinches momentarily. We both do. Though she shows no indication of surrendering in the face of Rebecca's temper. Everything escalates from there.
You've already gotten us in enough trouble because of this letter ghost everything.
You're blaming me again?
And you can't expect everyone to fix your mess.
You keep on putting the blame on me, but you're the one who didn't listen. All of you! If you just listened in the first place, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But you're too busy acting like you know what's best for everyone, when in fact you're the one who's being selfish.
I'm the one who's selfish. Yet you're still going to do what you want anyway, even if the people around you are already beside themselves with worry. This is how you've always acted since we met, and I'm tired of it. Sometimes I wish you never even came here, because all you've given us is a headache.
You know why I had to come here. My dad.
Your dad has nothing to do with this. It has always been you and your whiny, careless self that has always been the problem.
Maybe I should have stepped in earlier. Maybe I should have said something the moment Rebecca has slammed the flat of her hand on the table, or the second I've entered the area. Either way, it's too late to act. Harsh words have already been hurled between the two. Words more cutting than any blade, each and every one of it digging a wound too deep in the person they've been aimed at. For a long time, Isabella sits there in silence, while Rebecca stands unmoving, arms crossed and breathing heavy. Despite the lack of words between them, they're both vibrating with anger, refusing to meet the other's eyes. Ever so slowly, the atmosphere in the room turns thick and smothering. A strained air no one in the immediate vicinity, including me, dares to break, until the one at its center does so. Rebecca defiantly won't. At some point in our friendship, she has grown to become a woman firm in her opinions. She's never going to back down from this, not when she knows she has a point. Isabella, on the other hand, there has always been a certain stubbornness in her. As frustrating as it is to see sometimes, it is what has gotten her through life's hardships. Perhaps even the only thing that has. When you have nothing else, people tend to cling on to what they have within themselves instead. But she also knows when to withdraw, when a struggle turns useless, a kind of awareness almost second nature to her. When enough is enough, Isabella abruptly stands and marches towards the exit, in fast, rigid steps away from the hurt and painful words that they've let fly earlier. She bumps into me in her haste, the impact nearly knocking her off her feet. Instinct kicks in at the last moment, and I reach out for her, grabbing her arm in a steady grip. Surprise flits across her face, an expression mirrored by Rebecca's behind her. Neither of them have noticed me. However, that doesn't mean I won't have things to say about this. Well, why don't we stop it right there? Yeah, this is... I don't really like either of these options. Clearly I'm not with Rebecca. And I'm going to do myself what Isabella wants to do. But she wants to come along, or essentially go by herself, which is not really a great idea either. So, yeah. I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow. Anyway, this is audap, you're watching The Letter, running on Series X. I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.